My Little Dashie, a sequel, written by TY 500 600, read by DerbyPony22. As I sit in my chair, I can't help but to glance back at where my Dashie was lying only minutes ago, where she was lying before Celestia and the other ponies stole her away from me. I almost snorted out loud. No, where she was lying before her friends came and took her home. I feel a pang of guilt for being so selfish. This stage always comes in a parent's life. Just listen to me, I sound like a person who raised a child. Well, actually, isn't that what I am? Great. First I was selfish, now I'm being extra critical of myself. Of course that's what I did. Dashie was no different than any other human other than her looks. She talked, she wrote, she played, she loved. I cringed at that thought. I could feel tears coming on again, slowly dripping down my cheek. She was my child. No matter how she looked, I raised her to be the best person she could be, no matter where she lived, and I should take pride in that. I glance back out the window, comforting myself with that pride. The window is cracked, and I hear birds chirping. I think to myself, too bad Fluttershy isn't here. She might enjoy meeting these new birds, this new world with the new creatures. Oh wait, never mind. The animals here are no different than the ones in their world, Dashie's world. Clouds are starting to form overhead. Rain, I assume. I stand up to shut the window, but as I rise, a leaf blows in through the window. I follow it with my eyes, dancing and weaving through my living room, landing on the rug that the ponies were seated on not moments ago. I shut the window and I turn to face the room. Other than my book of photos, there are no memories of Dashie left. I sink back into my depression. All thought and emotion other than sadness escapes my body. Just standing there, I collapse in on myself, remembering all that I could about my little girl. Her first bath, her first words, her first flight, her cutie mark, and all the broken windows that came with it. At that thought, I smiled a little, but it is quickly wiped from my face. I don't know how long I stood there, just remembering. When I came to, though, I was sitting in Dashie's recliner, and the roar of water hitting my window helped to stir me. I got back up and approached the window and leaned on the sill, staring over our yard. My yard, I guess. The raindrops sliding down the window made me feel even gloomier. No, not gloomy, angry. I got so angry I could scream, so I did. I yell at the top of my lungs for as long as I can hold it. It felt like just seconds of a yell, but it was almost a full minute. The yell finally is muffled by a yawn. The yawn just provokes more anger. How can I be tired at a time like this? I think to myself. I think of the episode of My Little Pony where Fluttershy becomes a model, and how she kicks her vase. I look around for the nearest vase. Found one. The crashing sound reduced my anger some. I sigh in despair and bang my head against the window. I told myself that I wouldn't be angry. I told myself that I would be happy for her. After all, every parent must say goodbye to their child. I turn back to the dark, empty house and I start walking. Something I haven't done since the day Dashie found out where she was really from. I walked all over the house, up the stairs and into our rooms. Seeing the office put a hole into my heart, and I had to shut the door to keep from crying again. I pulled out my key and locked it shut. I didn't want to go in there ever again. And for that matter, no one should. That would require me having someone over. I proceed into my room and fall onto my bed. I feel empty, and I just want to cry myself to sleep. So many questions left unanswered. Will she remember me? Did she keep her things? I'm sure there were more, but I'm too tired to remember. I let myself drift off to sleep.
Let's get her to bed,
whispered Princess Celestia to Fluttershy. The two were in Rainbow Dash's cloud castle, gently resting her in her bed. It was nighttime, and it would soon be time for Celestia to raise the sun again. Outside of Rainbow's cloud castle hovered the pink balloon that the other four ponies sat in, watching their friend finally being returned home. Twilight Sparkle let out a sigh of relief.
I really thought that man who watched Rainbow was going to put up more of a fight, especially after we heard about how much he cared for her,
she whispered. She looked back to the other three friends that sat in the balloon. They were all clearly tired and wanted rest.
He just wanted what was best for his little, Dashie,
Applejack muttered.
Oh, that poor man. Was this really right of us? I mean, yes, she's our friend too, but that man was alone in his world without Dashie. We have each other, 5 of us. They had each other only.
Pinkie Pie moped.
Well, of course this is what's best, darling. Rainbow Dash was not meant for that world. She was meant for ours.
Rarity chimed in ever so quickly to defer any bad ideas about losing her friends.
Okay, girls. Rainbow is asleep. She should be as good as new tomorrow. I'll swing by again to check later,
Sighed the princess.
Fluttershy, would you mind staying here for the night to make sure nothing bad happens?
She asked politely.
Oh, sure. I would love to spend the night with Rainbow.
Blushed Fluttershy, her voice ever so quiet.
Twilight, I would hate to trouble you more, but I have an assignment for you. I would like you to research this phenomenon and tell me what you discover. This has never happened before, and I want to know all about it.
The princess glanced at her pupil.
Will do, princess. You can count on me.
Said a confident Twilight.
Oh, my head.
Moaned a disgruntled Rainbow Dash. She kept her eyes closed and ran her hoof up to her throbbing forehead. Reaching around herself, she searched for her bedside table. She bumped a glass of water, which she quickly drank down. She didn't even bother to open her eyes due to the sunlight, and she wrapped herself up in the blanket she had on her and dozed back off. Fluttershy hovered in the doorway, considering waking up her Pegasus friend, but she thought better of it and let her doze off.
I'll just make her some breakfast, which would be nice, wouldn't it?
Fluttershy asked herself.
I think it would.
She smiled and headed on her way. About a half an hour later, Rainbow Dash woke up again to the smell of cooking. At first it smelled amazing, until she opened her eyes. This wasn't her room. Where were her posters? Where was her comfy mattress? She started to breathe really fast. Where was she? She tried to calm herself, and it was working because she thought she heard Dad coming to see her, until a flying figure was floating in the doorway.
Good morning, Rainbow Dash. How are you?
Fluttershy was cut short. Rainbow Dash had started yelling at the top of her lungs for Dad.
Oh, no, please, Rainbow. You're home now. What is going on? Don't you recognize me?
By now, Fluttershy had dropped the plate and backed up into a corner trying to shy away from Rainbow Dash. Dash was now flying around the room as fast as her wings could carry her. Panicking, she tried to fly through the cloud walls that surrounded her, but to her surprise they were solid. She took a chance at the window, and that worked. She flew out into the sky, away from that scary place. She turned to see the large pony that was named Celestia staring her in the face.
Ah, Rainbow Dash. I was just coming over to check on you. Good to see that you're up,
Celestia said with a royal tone. The panicked look in Rainbow's eyes concerned her.
Are you all right?
Rainbow just floated there for a moment, mouth gaping. Her voice caught up to her mouth.
But you were a dream. I had a dream that a bunch of ponies from the My Little Pony had come to my dad in my house, and you were there. And so was the yellow one that had me trapped in that cloud fortress,
exclaimed Dash, pointing back towards the castle. Celestia looked shocked.
You still remember him? The memory spell Twilight cast was supposed to restore your true memories. This is most troubling. So you do not recognize that sky castle?
She pointed at the castle. Dash shook her head, still dismayed.
Where is my dad? I thought this was a dream at first. Where is he? We were supposed to go to an air show with the Blue Angels. I've always wanted to see them. Where is he?
She was on the verge of tears.
Oh dear. Rainbow Dash, come with me. We are going to see Twilight,
said Celestia in a stern voice.
I hope she has found something useful.
She thought Rainbow Dash might resist her at first, but something about her presence made the Pegasus fly right next to her.
Oh dear! Oh dear!
Twilight panicked. She had stayed up all night trying to find an explanation for the princess about what happened. Pinkie Pie had opted to stay and help her find something. All she had found so far was teleportation from one side of the planet to the other. Nothing about world crossings or anything of that sort. In all of pony history, there was nothing about world crossings involved. The only remote thing she found about the world crossings was something about time shifting and time convergence. But as far as she was concerned, that didn't matter at the moment. She was poring over a glossary of a book when there was a knock at the door.
Pinkie, could you answer that?
Asked a twitching Twilight. Pinkie nodded her head ferociously and bounced over to the door. She opened to see the princess and Dashie.
Dashie!
Yelled Pinkie, who proceeded to tackle her best friend. She was greeted by a shove.
I don't know who you are, so back off!
Yelled Dash, tears in her eyes. Pinkie's poofy pink hair deflated just like last time.
What happened? Princess, why Why doesn't she remember me?
Pinkie whimpered.
I don't know, Pinkie Pie. That's what I have come here to find out. May we come in?
Celestia asked politely.
Oh, sure, come on in.
Pinkie had said back to her cheery self in no time.
Twilight Sparkle, my pupil, what have you discovered in your studies? We may have a problem.
Celestia asked her student. Twilight hung her head low in shame.
I haven't found anything about worlds crossing over. The closest thing I found was that one pony had perfected teleportation and had gone from one side of the world to the other, but that was it. I'm sorry, Princess. I let you down. What's wrong with Rainbow Dash?
She questioned, still hanging her head.
Let us worry about your investigation later. For now, Rainbow Dash's memories are still about the man from the other world. It seems that the memory spell used on her was ineffective. What do you have to say? Celestia asked. At the sound of this, Twilight picked up her head immediately, concerned. She thought she did it exactly the same as she had done it during the Discord incident.
I don't know. Should I try again?
She asked her mentor. Celestia nodded and walked over and held Rainbow Dash.
Hold still, please.
Twilight was about to lower her horn to Dash's head again, but this time Rainbow jumped away.
Oh no, not this time! The last time this happened, you ruined my life! I'm not gonna let you do that again!
Yelled a furious Rainbow Dash. She squirmed out of the hold of Princess Celestia and soared through an open window. She quickly glanced around, looking for somewhere to hide. She saw a forest not far off, and with memories of Daddy, she bolted towards it, hoping he would be under one of the trees like he was that one day long ago.
Why doesn't Rainbow remember us? And why does she still remember that man?
Bounced Pinkie.
I thought when you used that memory spell, it would replace anything that happened before.
She was bouncing around the room, looking through Twilight's books.
I don't know, Pinkie. I thought the same thing. I still feel bad about the first time, but after I saw how scared she was this time, I just wanted to help. Now she is off in the ever-free forest.
Twilight let out a sigh of fatigue. She had been up for almost 24 hours trying to find out what had happened to Rainbow when she'd gone to the different world, and now discover what had happened with her memory spell. Princess Celestia had gone back to Canterlot to talk to her unicorn advisors to see what they could figure out. Applejack, Rarity, and Fluttershy were out in the forest looking for Rainbow Dash. Pinkie had opted to stay behind to help Twilight, much to the dismay of Fluttershy.
Gah! This is useless! There is nothing about world teleportation or memory prevention.
She had started sulking around the room in self-pity when Pinkie threw a book at her.
How about this one? It's called The Effects of Teleportation on Memory. That sounds promising,
Said an ecstatic Pinkie Pie. Twilight just shook her head in awe.
Rainbow, where are you? It's your friends. We're here to take you home.
Yelled Applejack. They had begun their search about an hour after Rainbow Dash had bolted away from Twilight's library, and had been searching for a couple hours since.
Applejack, if she really doesn't remember us, why would she be willing to let us take her? I mean, really, use that brain of yours.
Snapped Rarity, and then...
I'm sorry, Applejack. It's just that being in these creepy, dirty woods has been really irritating me. Fluttershy, do you see anything?
Rarity yelled up to Fluttershy, who was following closely above the tree line, hoping to get sight of Rainbow.
No, nothing. In fact, I haven't seen any form of flying animals since we got in here. This is really scary. Can we go back now?
Fluttershy said timidly. You could tell she was nervous. She was flapping her wings rapidly. Her eyes were shifting back and forth, and her ears were flat against her head.
Besides, it's getting dark, and it isn't safe out here in the dark.
She gulped.
We gotta keep searching. If she really doesn't have her memory back, then she has no idea what's in these here woods.
Applejack stressed to her friend.
Let's think about her position here. She has a happy life with a great man for 15 years, and then 6 ponies trot into her house, tell her that she needs to leave, and more or less pony nap her back here. Now, don't get me wrong, I think she's better off here, but is it what she truly wants? Anyway, she wakes up the next morning to find herself somewhere completely different, without her old memories, and does what any other pony would do, panics. Also, I don't have the darndest idea as to why she doesn't have her old memories, so don't ask. Continuing on, she manages to escape the strange place, the Cloud Palace, mind you, and runs right into one of the ponies that pony napped her, the biggest one of all, Princess Celestia. Now, obviously, Dash doesn't have any idea who Celestia is, but goes with her to see Twilight under the assumption of help. They get here, and she gets what probably seems to her assaulted by Pinkie Pie for the second time in days. I'm sure that disturbs her a bit. Then she hears Celestia tell Twilight to try and change her memories again. Now don't tell me that wouldn't make you shiver in your galoshes. She freaks out and runs to the nearest place that reminds her of her home, the forest. She has no idea what is out here, so Fluttershy, until it is actually dark, we keep searching. I don't even care if she remembers us right now or not. I just want to see her safe and...
She was cut off by a large explosion. It has been several weeks since my Dashie had left. I had told myself that I was going to go out and try and meet actual people, since dwelling on the past probably wasn't healthy. After a debatably fun outing with some people from work, I started walking home. Someone had offered me a ride, but I respectfully declined. I wanted to be on my own for a bit, and I didn't feel like inviting someone into my house. Saying my or I about anything around the house has taken a while to get used to, since Dashie took equally good care of it, and it wasn't easy to push that thought from my mind. I was walking in the forest near where Dashie and I had hid underneath the tree during that rainstorm so long ago, when the day went from mostly sunny to very cloudy. Ever since the ponies had come and gone, there had been strange weather phenomenon. Clouds moving at odd speeds and angles, rain coming and going almost systematically. Meteorologists had chalked it up to just that, a strange phenomenon. I had picked up my pace slightly as to not get caught in the rain, but nothing faster than a brisk walk, for I also had no desire to get home fast. I felt the first drops of rain hit my face and jacket when a thunderous bang echoed overhead. The sound made me flinch, and I looked up to see lightning jump through the clouds. At first it sounded like something had broken the sound barrier, but thunder didn't sound much different, I guess. I almost picked up my pace again until I saw it. The tree that Dashie and I hid under together, the spot where we cried in each other's hooves and hands respectively. I figured I would sit down, just to get off my feet for a bit and to get out of the rain. I had rested my head against the trunk of the tree and closed my eyes. I heard a crack. I instantly jumped from my position and began to look around me for any sign of life. And there, to my left, I saw Dashie. I almost leapt at her to hold her, but something bound me to the ground. Then I saw something new. I saw myself sitting right next to me. I tried to talk, but my mouth wouldn't move. I tried to wave, but my hands were as immobile as my feet and my mouth. All I could do was watch. Dashie seemed younger than the last time I saw her, probably around the same age as when we were together under this tree. She had walked over and sat down next to me. Well, not me, the other me. I watched. For the longest time, the two just sit and look out at the woods. Then she asked him if he still loved her. I watched the whole scene play out exactly as I remembered it. I wanted to yell, to move, to hold her, to hold my Dashie one more time, but I couldn't. I was crying on the inside. A tear leapt from my eye, just hovering on my eyelash. I watched them say sorry, and I watched them embrace each other, crying. I watched myself grab my daughter and hold her tight. I wanted to join them in embrace, trying ever so hard to move my arm. I felt a twitch in my arm. I pushed with all my might, trying to touch Dashie once more. My arm, very slowly, approached my daughter. It seemed like an eternity how long it took for me to reach her with my hand. My hand brushed her wing. Success. My heart exploded just like that old meme. But then, everything around me started to fade. I tried to hold on to Dashie with all the strength I could summon. But it wasn't enough. The mystical force that had bound me before had me again. I squeezed my hand on her wing, hoping she would stay with me. But she disappeared, and so did I. The other I. He vanished too. And then there was the same bang that I'd heard earlier, and I woke up. I shot straight up from my previous position. I looked back to where I was. I had fallen asleep under the tree and was dreaming. But I could have sworn I actually felt Dashie's feathered wing, I thought to myself. I stood up and peeked out from under the tree and looked up. The clouds had been swept away, and in their place stood a majestic rainbow. It was beautiful, and not because it reminded me of Dashie, but because it was Dashie. I just knew it to be true, even though I had no way to prove it. I must have stared at that rainbow for an hour. The rainbow began to fade, so I turned to head home. My heart was bouncing with so much joy. Had my Dashie found a way back? Maybe a way to communicate? I had no idea how to describe what I saw, but it was the best I have felt in weeks. It was only then that I noticed how tired my arm was. I also felt my hand clutching something tight. I looked down, and in my hand, the hand I tried so hard to reach Dashie with, was a big cyan feather.
Fast. That's all I could think about. Those ponies, I knew from how much I watched the show, were not fast. The way I figured it, I was the fastest around, and no one could match me, so I flew. I flew as fast as my wings could carry me, hoping that I might find something in the forest. I don't know how long I flew, a couple of hours probably, but I had no way to tell. From what I noticed, these ponies only had one clock tower. No watches or phones to tell time, just that tower. Dad would have helped those ponies. Dad. I had to push that thought out of my head for now. There was no time for sadness, only speed. I had to get somewhere that I could think and find out how to go home. I don't care what those ponies say about where I belong. I don't care what world I live in. As long as I'm with Pops, life was good. I wasn't paying attention to how fast I was going, and that's when I noticed the air friction increasing. The sonic rain boom! That would get Dad's attention! If he could see it anyway. I pumped my wings as fast as they would go, pushing me through the air barrier. I felt the resistance building, but I was determined. I felt myself punch through the barrier, the rainbow forming around my mane. My body was speeding up, and a whistling sound was deep in my ears. I pumped my last bit of energy into my wings and exploded forward, rainbow tail behind me, the massive color circle spreading ever wider, covering this forest. It was easily the biggest one I had performed yet. The circle expanded for miles, well, at least from what I could tell, since I only glanced back for a moment. It was large enough that not only did it clear the clouds, it smashed them together to form a massive rainstorm. I halted myself and flew back towards the rain. To me, sitting on top of a thunderhead sounded like something to take my mind off current events. I hovered above them for just a moment and let my wings collapse against my body, and I fell several feet. My hooves landed with a small thud. Well, that's strange, I thought to myself. When I was in that cloud castle, when I ran through the clouds, I made no noise. Come to think of it, the only time I made noise walking on clouds was... I glanced down over the edge. Below me was a massive tree, easily protecting the ground underneath it from the rain. My heart started rising fast, and I leaped off the cloud, unfolding my wings to slow my descent. I hit the ground and landed on a twig that cracked under my hook. The sound almost made me jump, but something about it seemed familiar and calming. I looked around, searching for anything familiar. There was not a single thing that looked the same other than the large tree. I trotted over and sat down, letting my hooves slowly slide until I ended up lying down. I was alone in this jungle, no person or pony here with me. I felt like crying again, but this time I let myself. I don't know how long I cried, but I must have cried myself to sleep because I had a dream where I saw my dad again. At first it seemed real, but then I could also see myself there with him. I saw me ask him if he still loved me, and he told me of course. How could I have been so foolish back then? Of course he loved me. He had raised me for 10 years before that. If I ever see him again, no, when I see him again, I will be sure to apologize for that. In the dream, I saw him stroke my mane and hold me close. I tried to lean in on the hug, but I couldn't will myself close enough until I felt a sharp pain in my wing. That's what woke me up. I shot up out of the position I was in, checking myself for any visible damage. Other than the missing feather, I seemed all right. This is where I sit now, having no idea where one of my feathers went, and I'm currently under a tree hiding from rain. Some Pegasus pony I am. Rainbow, where are you? I could hear the voice of the orange one. What was her name? Applejack. They were out looking for me, but I had no intention of letting them take me back to have my memory wiped again. I stand up, trying not to make too much noise. I trot off slowly, knowing that the flying one, Fluttershy, I think, is probably up there watching for me. Hoping to slip away under the cover of the night, I jump into some bushes off the side of the trail, waiting to see if they move past. Trying to control my breathing, I peek out of the bushes. I see the white one at first, Rarity, followed closely by Applejack. I look up and see a faint shadow of a flying figure above me. After sitting still for several minutes, I lose sight and sound of them. I slowly move back through the woods, making sure not to give my position away. After several seconds of this, I felt my flank rub up against something soft. A living being, it felt like. I whipped my head around and was staring right into the eyes of another creature. I felt its emerald eyes scanning me, observing me. My eyes adjust to the darkness, and I see a cloaked figure. It had black and white stripes. It was a zebra.
Ah, Rainbow Dash, it is good to see that you have not forgotten me.
The zebra had a big smile on her face, clearly happy to see me. She was about to have a big surprise. When I didn't respond, her smile turned into a frown.
You do remember me, do you not? Or am I some pony you have forgot?
The only reason why I know your name is because I've seen the show, I say cautiously. The one episode of the show that I actually saw the zebra in was about where she cursed us. I mean them. And if you don't mind, I'm going to leave now. I unfold my wings to make a quick break until the zebra bit my tail and held on.
Wait, Rainbow Dash, do not go. For what is wrong, I must know.
Zecora says through clenched teeth. She obviously wasn't going to let go, so I let myself fall back to the ground and fold up my wings.
Please come back to my home, for in the dark you should not roam,
she warned me. I let out a sigh and nodded, having her lead the way. She was right. I had no idea what was out here, and a house would be nice after being stuck out in the rain for so long.
It has been a little more than a month and a half since I've seen Dashie, so it must have been only a couple of hours back in Equestria. I was sitting in my TV room relaxing after a long day of work, and I figured I could reward myself with a little downtime. I was flicking through the channels on the TV when I came across some NASCAR reruns, and figured I would try and watch to see what Dashie saw in it. I know it was in her blood to go fast, but I was curious as to what she liked in particular. After about an hour of watching NASCAR, I was getting dizzy of watching cars go around in a circle for so long. I personally didn't find that very entertaining, so I got up to pour myself a drink. After fumbling around in the dark for a while, I almost tripped out of the kitchen. One of the floorboards had been coming up and it snagged my foot. I caught my balance and sat back down and figured that NASCAR required a little bit of alcohol to enjoy, so I sipped on a beer. Normally I don't drink, but after watching NASCAR I felt it was necessary. I set my drink on the side table next to my chair, all the while watching the screen. I found myself rooting for the number 16 car, which was lighter blue. I thought to myself, like Dashie in the episode where she was competing for the Best Flyer award. I suddenly found my eyes drawn to the blue feather that I found several weeks ago. It was resting on top of the TV cabinet next to the picture book. I averted my eyes back to the screen and started yelling, "Go, Dashie, go!" The number 16 car was fighting hard for first place, struggling to get around the other car ahead of it. Then something happened. Number 16 got up really close to the first place car, then did some swerving motion and snuck ahead of the other car. I launched out of my chair in excitement. I was standing now, cheering at the top of my lungs. One more lap to go. Sweat was dripping down the sides of my cheeks. The cars rocketed past the finish line with Dashie just ahead of the pack. I was dancing and screaming and cheering. I knew that wasn't actually Dashie, but it felt good to cheer for her again anyway. An interview crew ran up to the driver and began flashing their cameras and asking questions. One interviewer asked the question, "How do you explain what you did back there, getting past the forward car, I mean?" The driver took off his helmet. "Well, to be honest, I have no idea. I thought I was giving my car all she had, but then she seemed more determined to win than I was and bolted ahead. It was almost like magic." Magic moves in mysterious ways, I guess. He looked at the camera and winked. I reeled back from the screen in awe as if he were talking to me. I'm pretty sure Celestia said that once. My eyes bolt back to the feather. I walk over slowly, staring at it intently. Magic. Something that wasn't in my world, but in theirs it was everything. My mind racing. I was trying to think of something, some explanation. This is almost impossible. Because I'm a human, I don't know any real magic, just cheap card tricks. My eyes shot back up to the feather again. I reached up and grabbed it ever so slowly and brought it close to my eyes. Other than the fact that it belonged to Dashie, there was nothing remarkable about it. I turned it over gingerly in my hands, treating it like a baby. The feather had a very large column running up the length of it, just like most feathers. I still knew enough about My Little Pony lore to know that a Pegasus feather were thicker than a bird's feathers to carry their weight, but I couldn't tell how much of a difference. I gently put it back where it was, stared at it for a few moments longer, then pulled away. I stared at the TV for a moment longer and then powered it down. The room went dim, with only the light now trickling in from the hallway light. I walked to the light switch and flicked it down, cutting off all light to the television room. I passed the walls that separated the room from the hallways, methodically walking, for I was deep in thought. I headed towards the kitchen again, going to grab a glass of water. Thoughts were racing through my mind, but I was having difficulties focusing on a single one. Is there a way for her to come home? Where did the feather come from? Is there a way for me to go to her? What can a human do as far as magic? Do humans even possess the ability to control magic? Is there a way to learn? Could something science-y cause something to happen? Was Dashie all right? All of these thoughts were fighting for the spotlight for my brain to focus on that I wasn't aware of my surroundings. The plank that had caught me by the ankles last time had managed to trip me up again, only this time successfully making me fall. I hit the ground with a loud oof, the glass shattering against the hardwood floor. God damn it, I sighed under my breath. With a sluggish movement, I pulled myself up off the floor, limping back to the kitchen for a towel and a broom. I hobbled back into the hallway, my towel and broom in my hands. I dropped the towel over where the glass hit, soaking up the water. I began sweeping up the broken shards of glass in a pile for me to vacuum up. A large piece of glass had slid into the television room. I rested the broom against the wall, and with a slight twinge of pain in my left ankle, walked to grab it. I was bending down when something caught my eye. A faint glow came from above the TV. I stood up, unaware as to what was going on. My eyes adjusted to the darkness of the room. The glow was cyan in color, radiating out of the feather that was perched above the TV. I felt like I was in a trance. My body moved without me telling it to. Gradually, I made my way towards the cyan feather. I couldn't take my eyes off it, like I was drawn to it. It drew ever closer to me, slowly but surely. I felt my foot bump against the furniture that held the TV and the feather. At first, nothing happened. It just sat there, glowing. But then, the unnatural happened. It rose slightly off its perch and halted, just floating. I couldn't believe my eyes. I had control of my body again, and I bent down to get a closer look. It was hovering about an inch off the wood, not moving, just floating. I slowly reached up to touch it. As soon as my fingers brushed against it, my vision was consumed by darkness.
Twilight, please go to bed. You've been up for almost 3 days now. Besides, you won't be of any use to us if you can't even stand.
Pinkie Pie shouted up to Twilight, who was perched on the edge of her overhang where her bed was. Twilight's mane had snares and split ends and was getting dirty from not showering. She had very droopy bags under her eyes, and she was having issues keeping her balance on the edge. Her tail was wrapped around her legs, and that too was messy. She was reading the book Pinkie had found, looking for an explanation as to what was happening to Rainbow Dash.
No, Pinkie. If any one of us was in trouble, Rainbow would rest until she figured out a way to help.
Twilight said with a slurred, tired voice. She was rocking back and forth, flipping pages frantically with her magic, looking for any sign or hope.
All I have found is that memory spells, when combined with teleportation, might bring memories of the pony who cast the spell over to the pony on the receiving end. That doesn't help us at all. Rainbow doesn't remember anything. This book is useless.
Twilight flung the book down onto the pile of books that were already on the floor beneath her.
And the worst part is that no one can find her. The other three spent several hours in the forest, and no sign of Rainbow. Spike, send the princess a message asking her if she has found any promising results, and make it quick.
Twilight? The princess said that if she found anything, then she would come back as soon as she did. I don't think we should bother her.
Spike's sentence was cut off in the middle, and a plume of fire shot out of his maw, and a scroll landed in his claws.
Or, never mind. Ahem. Dear Twilight, my advisors know nothing of this magic. What they believe to have happened is that the mixing of the powerful natural energy of the weather and also your powerful magic had created a wormhole of some sort that was made of both magic and natural energies. They also brought some interesting points to ponder. The Pegasus ponies have the ability to control the weather, where unicorns have only slight control of this and Earth ponies have none. This is all and well, but they think that the combination of the Pegasus pony powers plus the unicorn magic may have created something inside of your friend, almost a new pony magic of sorts. While this is not a tested theory in the slightest, it must be noted as a possible explanation. This is important because if this is true, this new magic is only controlled by your friend, and for it to be manipulated would require another pony with similar powers to affect her. Basically, what I'm saying is that, once again, only if this is true, then none of this world's magic will affect Rainbow Dash's personal well-being. This is also disturbing because that means that she may or may not have the power to control weather and magic. This is also different than the abilities I possess, for I do not control a single power of magic and weather, but I possess 2 abilities, one for weather control and the other magic. For now, there is nothing you or your friends can do to help Rainbow Dash. I now ask you, please get some rest. Your friends are worried about you, and Spike tells me, that's me, that you are not in the greatest of conditions. I need you at the best of your abilities, both mentally and physically. So sleep, my student. I will come to you when I need you. Princess Celestia. Whew, that was a lot to read,
said Spike. Twilight hung her head.
I can't do anything to help Rainbow, and she wants me to sleep?
Moped Twilight.
Twilight, you silly filly. You know it's not what the princess said. She said that she wanted you to rest and be ready when she needs you. Now go to bed. Spike and I can clean up these books for you.
Chimed Pinkie Pie.
Okay. You guys win.
Twilight struggled to her hooves, clearly weak and exhausted, and slowly walked to her bed. After the sound of Twilight shutting her door, Spike was quick to talk to Pinkie Pie.
What do you think of this, Pinkie Pie? I mean, is this right? Rainbow Dash has no idea who we are, and the only person she has had for a family was this man you guys keep talking about. Do you know his name, by the way?
A quick shake of Pinkie's head delivered the answer.
Nope. He never said anything about his name. Neither did Dashie. And I'm in the same boat as you are, Spike. At first I was really excited to have Dashie home, but after I saw what had happened, I even cried a little bit. I told the other ponies a couple of days ago, too, but Rarity didn't like that thought.
Admitted Pinkie. Her head drooped a little.
Spike, that man out there, he had no one to love or to hold. We always have each other. He had Dashie, and Dashie had him for a long time. I've been thinking this whole time about what is happening.
Spike just gave Pinkie a quizzical look.
That's exactly the look Rarity gave me. I remembered how that we needed Rainbow Dash to be one of the elements of harmony, but if she isn't our friend, then she won't be able to use her element. How can she be loyal to some ponies she doesn't know? Or 5 some ponies she doesn't know? I wouldn't trust a bunch of crazy ponies who are keeping me away from my pops.
I hear you, Pink, but I think we need to look at what is better for her overall. Here in Equestria, she can live. She can fly and truly be herself. In their world, at least from what you guys tell me, she couldn't.
Spike said, sliding a book onto the shelf.
That reminds me, I saw the strangest thing on the way over today. I was I was skipping over, and I was watching the sky for the off chance of seeing Rainbow Dash, and I saw a cloud move.
Exclaimed Pinkie Pie. Spike gave her a confused look.
Not like that, silly. I mean, it moved on its own. There was no pony pushing it or anything. The only place I've ever seen that was above the Everfree Forest and in the other world.
Pinkie said with excitement.
Something strange is happening, Spike, but I don't know what.
Are you sure? Are you sure you didn't see some pony pushing it? Clouds from the forest always stay above the forest. And why would a cloud from the other world be here? How would it be here? They don't have magic.
Spike asked with wide eyes. The standard rapid head nod confirmed his answer.
I bet it's just something that came from the forest. I'm sure it was nothing. Let's finish this up.
Did I hear you say something about a cloud moving on its own?
Came a drowsy voice.
I read about that in one of the books.
Twilight emerged over the edge of her loft, blinking heavily.
One of the old wizard ponies had documented that long-distance teleports that required a large amount of energy would sometimes bring more than just ponies through the gates.
Twilight said. She stopped for a moment to collect her thoughts as she began to speak again.
The thing is, these anomalies would only occur for no more than an hour or 2 after the teleport happened. Pinkie, did you say that you saw this today?
Twilight stammered, still very tired. Pinkie nodded her head ferociously.
Yippers! On my way over here this morning. What does that mean, though, Twilight? Aliens? Are aliens here?
Pinkie's eyes suddenly widened at the thought.
No, Pinkie, that does not mean aliens. At least I don't think. No, this means something else. This means...
Twilight's sentence was muffled by a yawn. She swayed at the top of the stairs for a moment before collapsing.
Twilight!
Spike and Pinkie yelled in unison. They rushed up the stairs to the unicorn friend to see if she was all right.
She must have fallen asleep.
Spike said as he let out a sigh of relief. He lifted her rear end.
Pinkie, help me move her to the bed.
But I wanted to know what she was going to say.
Pinkie whined. She wrapped her hooves around Twilight's sleeping face.
Wake up! What does this mean?
Pinkie, she is sleeping. Let her be. We can ask her what she meant when she wakes back up. Now help me,
grunted Spike. He wrapped his claws around Twilight's rear hooves and began to pull.
Good idea, Spike. Dropping her off the edge would surely wake her up.
Pinky said as she grabbed Twilight and started off towards the balcony.
No! Pinky, help me get her to bed! She needs to sleep!
Spike growled.
Oh, I see. If we let her sleep, she can tell us later. You're full of good ideas, Spike.
She said while trying to balance the sleeping unicorn on her back. Spike stared blankly after Pinky, who bucked Twilight into her bed.
Nighty-night, Twilight. Hey, that rhymes.
She chuckled to herself. Spike just brought his claw up to his face, creating an audible slap at hearing that.
Pinky, sometimes I just don't understand you.
Hey, Rarity said that too.
That is quite the predicament, Rainbow Dash. Let us find the answers before some pony does something brash.
We had just arrived to her hut, and we had spent the time walking, discussing what was happening. I told her everything that had happened so far. Waking up in Dad's world, being raised by him for so long, the other ponies coming and taking me home, me waking up in this world, and how I came to this forest. From the show, the only thing I remembered about Zecora was that she was good with potions. I can't say I'm an expert with potions, but I don't think that they would help me find my dad. I voiced my concerns with Zecora. Zecora? Not to be rude or anything, but how would a potion help me get out of this place? I questioned with a slight drowsiness. I had been up for almost 2 days, and it was starting to get to me.
This potion will not help fix the events that transpired, but it will help you become less tired,
she said, slowly adding ingredients to her pot. She added some flour to it, and it began to bubble. I took a quick sniff and snapped my head back. It smelled horrible, but I was so tired I was willing to try anything. After a few more moments of stirring, she dipped a bowl into the pot and then set it in front of me. I quickly swallowed it down. It didn't taste too bad. I felt like a fire was lit inside of me, and it felt good. I spread my wings as far as I could and began to flap them, and I lifted off the ground and held it there for a moment. I haven't felt so alive since I arrived to this place. I was so caught up in the moment, though, that I didn't notice Zecora backing away from me at first. I looked around to see what she saw, and it was me. My wings and cutie mark had begun glowing. Zecora, what did you put in that thing? I panicked. I tried to move, but my body was locked in place. The energy flowing from my body was amazing and horrifying at the same time. Zecora couldn't respond. She just stood there staring at me, mouth agape. She stirred herself finally and ran over to try to pull me down. She struggled with all her might, but I was stuck. Then as quickly as the glowing came, it disappeared, and I fell to the ground with a thud. I stood up and shook myself off. I was exceptionally tired again, but this time it felt like I had expended a large portion of energy, not like I had not gotten enough sleep.
This pony magic is crazy to me. I just use brews and potions, you see,
Zecora murmured. She walked over to a book and flipped it open and began to read.
I must study to find a remedy.
I turned my back to Zecora and I walked through her house, looking at all the trinkets and other things she had strewn all over the place. The way this place was decorated felt like something out of a horror movie or something. All we need is a ghost, I thought to myself. I turned to face the zebra when I got my wish. Something was in the room with us, but Zecora didn't seem to notice. I slowly approached what seemed like a shadow in the center of the room. At first it didn't do anything. It sat there, moving only slightly until I saw it. In the center of the shadow was a face. Not any particular face, but a human face. My dad's face. "Dad!" I shrieked. I broke into a sprint towards it, trying to catch it. I jumped into the air to try and grab it, but I flew straight through and smashed into Zecora's pot. Zecora was now on her hooves, looking very confused. I just sat there in the pile of pots and pans for a while. Was that who I thought it was? I looked over to Zecora. I knew she didn't have any answers, but I just needed someone to speak to. I was going to say something, but I didn't know what I wanted to say. My head was trying to make sense of what had just happened. I felt a hoof on my shoulder as Zecora spoke to me slowly.
What is wrong, Rainbow? I cannot help if I do not know.
I turned back to where the apparition was, not moments ago, but to my dismay it was gone. I rose to my hooves and brushed myself off. I stared at Zecora, finally coming up with the words. "Thank you," I whispered.
I didn't know what to make of the little that I saw. I blinked, trying to clear my vision. What did I see? I saw a room, that was for sure. What was in the room was the main question. I saw something. It was still somewhat of a blur. I shook my head, trying to get my memories to settle. There was some stuff on the wall, cups and bottles, resting on shelves mostly. There were some tribal masks scattered around the room. It was somewhere that I knew, but I have never been to a place like that. Then it hit me. I hadn't, but Dashie had. It was Zecora's home. But how did I get there? It couldn't have been a dream. It had only been a couple of minutes since touching the feather. Yet something happened. There was someone there. Probably Zecora, logically thinking. As logical as this situation could be, anyway. There was someone else, though. Someone who shouted something. If I heard it right, it was Dad. Dashie? Was Dashie there? No way. It couldn't have been. I'm straining my brain to remember what I saw. No, Dashie was there for sure. I remember her lunging out to grab me. This isn't possible. How could it be? I don't control magic, neither does Dashie or Zecora. In my hand sat the feather, which was noticeably faded from its previous color, as if the energy was sucked from it. I slowly climbed to my feet and took in my surroundings. I was in the television room again. Everything was the same as it was moments ago. No, something was different. There was light leaking in through the shut windows. How was that possible now? It was midnight just minutes ago. I heard a beep from the kitchen, the answering machine. That was also strange since no one calls me. This day kept on getting odd. I set the feather down on the TV and walked into the kitchen and hit the play button as I went to pull a drink out of the fridge. It was from the office. It basically told me that they didn't see me at work and were wondering where I was. The beer gushed back out and onto the floor. Crap! I missed work! How long was I friggin' gone? I looked at the clock. It was almost 7 o'clock. I was gone for nearly 19 hours. I just shook my head. I must have drank too much last night and don't remember it. I headed back into the television room and sat on the couch and stared at the blank TV. So many thoughts were rushing through my head. I just let them, though, and I kept staring at the TV. I sat there for an hour just staring and sipping on my drink. My mind was trying to rationalize what I saw, but I no longer cared what it had to say. My heart knew what I saw. I saw my little Dashie. Urgent knocking on the door stirred Twilight from her long sleep. She rolled over and peeked out one eye. She had slept for nearly 15 hours. She bolted out of bed, disgusted with herself.
How could I let myself sleep that long?
She thought.
Spike, open the door!
Twilight yelled, brushing her mane. She was ready to get back to researching. The knocking persisted.
Spike? Where are you?
She sighed after getting no response other than knocking. She trotted down the stairs.
I'm coming.
She pulled open the door to see Princess Celestia standing in the front step.
Twilight, may I come in? This is urgent, and I felt I must speak with you in person.
The princess said hurriedly. Twilight was taken back a bit by her urgency.
Of course, Princess. Make yourself at home,
She said, stepping out of the way of her teacher.
Could I get you something to drink?
The princess politely declined as she walked into the treehouse.
No, thank you, Twilight. I need to hear what you have learned.
Yes, Princess. First thing, I apologize to you beforehand. I've been sleeping ever since you sent that letter concerning Rainbow Dash. I had wanted to be up sooner, but I overslept.
Twilight said, ashamed of herself.
Twilight, there is nothing to apologize for. You have more than obliged yourself for the past few days. You need your rest. Now please, what do you know?
The princess inquired.
Right. Well, main thing that I have discovered is that there are strange weather patterns over the skies of Ponyville. Clouds are moving on their own, and no one is controlling them. This was brought to my attention by Pinkie Pie, who had noticed them. I had read that some of the ancient wizard ponies had documented that long-distance teleports would leave lasting effects on the areas where they occurred. One of the effects was that the portals remained open for short periods of time. What I believe is happening is that Rainbow Dash is doing something that uses great amounts of energy and compressing that energy into a small area, which is opening the link back to Earth, the only other place where she has a portal connection.
Twilight said, slightly elevated that she finally had something to report to the princess. The princess's reaction was not what she had expected, however.
Yes, I feared as much.
Celestia said, shaking her large head.
The situation is becoming worse every minute as well, I'm afraid. Every time Rainbow Dash uses her untamed energy, she slowly opens the portals more and more. Not only are physical objects starting to come through the gates, but certain elements of physics are too. The time difference that the two worlds shared, that one day here was 1 year there, has decreased. In fact, my advisors and wizards believe that it is as close as 1 day here is 2 weeks there.
Twilight's eyes grew large at hearing this fact.
But Princess, you said that our worlds were never made to mix and that we can't house each other. If what you are saying is true, how long would it be until the two worlds merge together?
Twilight was panicking now. She started ranting about the repercussions of the two worlds colliding, but Celestia cut her short.
Yes, Twilight, I am well aware to the gravity of the situation. My advisors have agreed upon only one thing. Rainbow Dash needs to have her powers stripped. If she doesn't, the raw power of the energies she controls will surely spell disaster across Equestria and Earth.
Celestia said with a grave tone. She saw Twilight cringe at the thought of trying to take another thing away from her friend.
She must be willing to give up her powers, otherwise there is no way that I could be able to remove them. They would resist me due to their uniqueness.
What if she resists? Then what will happen?
Twilight asked frightfully.
Let us hope she does not. We must explain the gravity of the situation to her and hope she understands what we are trying to do. Then, sadly, we will have to give her memories of Equestria back to her, and we know what that will do.
Celestia said quietly, almost at a whisper. Twilight knew what that meant, and she hung her head at that thought. The group of ponies set out into the forest for the second time, only this time with the princess and her 2 loyal bodyguards. Twilight and the princess had gone and rounded up their friends again to look again for Rainbow Dash. Like last time, Fluttershy was flying above the tree line, but this time she had a companion, Philomena. The princess opted to bring her pet along due to its sight and magical attunement.
Okay, Philomena, lead the way!
Princess Celestia shouted up. The majestic bird cawed in response and took off low over the forest, circling back every so often to allow the group to catch up.
Did you guys happen to check Zecora's home when you were out last time?
Twilight asked her friends. Applejack and Rarity swapped glances. Applejack stammered until Rarity cut her off mid-sentence.
What she means to say is, no, we didn't. We figured that if Rainbow Dash couldn't remember any of us, she would have no need to go to Zecora's or even remember how to get there.
Rarity said, a little ashamed to hear it out of her own mouth.
Well, I suppose I see where you guys are coming from, but that would have been the first place I would have checked. Knowing Zecora, if she found Rainbow Dash lost in the forest, she would have taken her in.
Twilight said, a hint of scold in her voice. The other 2 ponies just hung their heads in shame. Pinkie Pie was bouncing behind the group, stopping to look at anything that caught her attention. The princess was heavily focused on watching her pet, trying to determine where she might find the cause of the trouble in her land.
It's been a while since I've set hoof into the Everfree Forest, and now I remember why,
Celestia said with a slight shudder. Twilight looked on her mentor.
Even the princess is afraid of the forest,
She thought to herself. She didn't blame her, especially now with the 2 worlds closing in on each other. She had yet to actually tell her friends the urgency of the situation, but didn't want to scare them. She was hoping it was the right thing to do.
Princess, how many times do you think Rainbow has opened the portal to the other world?
Twilight said as she turned around to face the princess.
Well, Twilight,
Suddenly the princess stopped dead in her tracks. The others were soon to follow, a look of shock adorning each of their faces. As Twilight froze too, she summoned all the willpower she could muster to turn back around. What she saw she couldn't comprehend.
she must have opened it more than once, that's for sure.
Yeah, this is like my 5th time here. Of course I was lying to her. This was only my 2nd time here, but I didn't think it would hurt to rile up the goddess a little bit. It took all the composure I had to keep from laughing at her and her subjects' faces. Hello, Celestia. Long time no see, I said with a smirk. It's been, what, like 2.5 months since I last saw you? That means you guys are bringing me back after like an hour or something. The shock that was still stuck on their faces turned my smirk into an inner smile. If one of them hadn't said something, I probably would have started to laugh. Naturally, Pinkie Pie was the first to break the silence.
Oh, hi, I remember you. Wait, this is your 5th time here?
I nodded in response. I knew exactly what was coming. The pink mare bounced off the ground and gasped. And now she'll bolt off towards Ponyville, I thought to myself. She would have, too, if Applejack had not bit down on her pink tail.
Whoa there, Sugar Cube. We ain't going nowhere.
Applejack spit out through clenched teeth.
But he's never been to one of my parties.
Celestia walked over and rested a hoof on Pinky and shook her head. Pinky stopped jumping, clearly upset that she would not be able to throw me one of her magnificent parties. Maybe next time, Pinkie Pie, I chided. Her face brightened almost immediately.
I do not think so, friend.
Princess Celestia said flatly.
As I told you before, our worlds are not meant to house each other. As you are undoubtedly aware, Rainbow Dash has the ability to open a portal from our world to yours.
I nodded my head, where in reality I had no idea what was going on.
The problem is that every time Rainbow Dash opens the portal, it brings our worlds closer to each other. Tell me, how long has it been since we first met in your world?
I stared at her, trying to understand what she was getting at. Well, it's only been a few months, so that means it's been no more than an hour or two here, yes? I asked, now in all seriousness.
It has been 3 days for us,
she said a bit smugly. Now it was my turn to be surprised. What? I thought one day here in Equestria was 1 year back on Earth, I asked. Now it was her turn to get me riled up. She shook her head.
Well, no. And although I would love to sit and explain the situation to you, we simply don't have the time. All I can tell you is that you being here with that portal behind you is creating negative effects here in Equestria and on your planet. Have you noticed strange weather patterns back on Earth?
Well, yeah, I guess I have. The weatherman and the meteorologist said it was just strange phenomenon, though. I replied, already knowing what she was getting at. She was about to start up again when I cut her off. Wait. So you mean to tell me that Dashie crossing into my world so long ago has been affecting both our worlds? A curt nod was her reply. But then how come when she came to me in the first place there were no negative effects? Or when you and your group, I almost called them a posse, came through and then left, there were no effects, I said, starting to get annoyed. I came here to find my Dashie, not stand around talking to a bunch of ponies.
Where I cannot explain why the first time Rainbow Dash came through, there were no ill side effects, maybe because it was the first incident, or for some other plausible reason. But when My Little Ponies and I came through the portal, Twilight and I used our combined powers to do so gently, as to not rip open the portal, but to gently stretch it so that we could proceed through,
she said, also getting impatient.
Now, what we believe that has happened is that Rainbow Dash was charged with the powerful magical spell we told you about those months ago, or in our case, days. It was mixed with the frightful energy of the massive storm and stored in her body, giving her a magical power not yet seen in Equestria. That is how you keep getting here, but as you said, you already knew that,
she said, staring into my eyes. She knew I was lying, but I didn't care. I clenched my fists. Well, that's all well and good, but I'm here to find Dashie, so if you don't mind, I'm off to find her, I said, slightly more angry than intended. I turned my back to the group and started off. That was until I heard a sharp whistle. 2 of the princess's royal guards flew down from the sky and landed in front of me, wings spread, cutting off my route. I turned to face the princess. Now I was getting angry. Will you please move your cronies? I asked, relatively calmly. This scared Fluttershy a bit, who was now on the ground quivering behind her friends.
I'm afraid I cannot do that, for you must return to your home. As I said earlier, our worlds were never meant to be together. This portal cannot stay open for much longer, otherwise it will become more dangerous than before. I'm sorry to tell you this, but you must leave at once. If not for the good of the rest of us, then for the good of your Dashie. It is imperative that I strip her powers from her to close this portal. She is the key to this doorway, and it must be locked for good. I'm also sorry to tell you that our original memory charm was ineffective at restoring the memories of her past here in Equestria, and—
What? I thought she still remembered me, but also her friends, I said, my anger being replaced with sadness that I hadn't felt for months. But I wasn't sad for myself. I was sad for Dashie. She was not looking to see me, she was looking for a way back to me.
Yes, and although it hurts me deeply, you must return home for the good of both worlds. If she sees you again, she might not willingly give up her powers, and then we would not be able to shut this doorway. Now, I don't know if this is any condolence, but it will not hurt her. She will also not hurt for you, for she will not remember you.
Just the thought of this was able to break me. My Dashie. She would not remember anything? I fell to my knees as if I had just taken a blow to the stomach, and although I wasn't hurt physically, the princess might as well have done so. I felt my heart beat faster, and I was breathing heavily. I couldn't hold back the tears. It was just too much for me to take in.
I am sorry, but this is how it must be, for fear of these energies resurfacing later. But you must leave.
She said, noticeably quieter. She walked over to me and knelt down beside me and wrapped a wing around my body. She was aware of how much I was hurting. Okay, I'll go. I'm sorry. I thought Dashie had found a way. I couldn't finish my sentence as a tear rolled down my cheek. I looked straight into the eyes of the elder pony sitting beside me. I said this before, but I'm gonna say it again. Take care of my Dashie. She deserves better than you, and she deserves better than me. There's nothing we can do to help that. I stood up and looked at the sky as I wiped the tears from my face. So I ask you, make her happy again. Like all of your old-time adventures, protect her for me since I won't be able to. And, if at all possible, tell her I love her. Tell her that I am still so proud of the mare she has grown up to be. Tell her that I raised her to be the best person she could be. Please, just tell her while she remembers me. She deserves that at least. I choked out. My eyes were welling up with tears. I scanned the group of ponies. I saw tears in some of their eyes, hurt in others. I turned my back to the group, and I stared down the maw of the shadow looming in front of me. A single tear rolled down my cheek and it fell to the ground. I heard a voice behind me.
Be safe throughout your life, good sir. You are right, but you are wrong. Dashie doesn't deserve us, not anymore. The compassion you showed her has once again reminded me of the good everywhere. I hope that we may take a lesson from you, and I hope we may never meet again.
The majestic voice said, and then, almost inaudibly,
You were wrong. She truly deserves you.
I didn't look back as the darkness engulfed me. I never wanted to go back there.
You must understand, Rainbow Dash, that while not what you wanted, this is what must happen. I do not want to do this any more than you do, but for the good of Equestria and Earth, we must close the portal to the human world. The only way for us to do this, however, is that you must willingly give up your magical abilities, and then I shall remove them. It will not hurt you, and you will still have the ability to control the weather as you did before, but the magic itself will leave you.
The large pony said to me. I stared her down, challenging her, daring her to try and take my magic. My magic, my rules. What's wrong with a few clouds anyway? Sure, they aren't natural to your lands, but that doesn't matter. Have your flying ponies clear the sky. I'll even be willing to help, but I am going to see my dad again. There is nothing in either of these two worlds that will stop me, and you are no exception, I sneered. I didn't actually expect to talk her down, and the ruse I was putting on wasn't going to hold much longer either. I knew what I was going to have to do sooner or later. After Zecora had given me that potion, I had been practicing the ability that brought Dad to me earlier. While I know that I had used the ability, I felt drained like I did after seeing him in the middle of Zecora's hut the first time, right before these ponies showed up. I had thought that maybe he had come through again, but I had lost hope of this attempt after these ponies arrived. I was trying to stall so that I could activate the ability again, but it took a lot of energy. I have no idea if I could hold them off long enough to activate it again.
Rainbow Dash, I am not your enemy here. The only enemy you have is fate. It is fate that had you ripped through time and space and transported you to an alien world. It is fate that you were found and raised by that wonderful man. It is fate that you must now give up all that you love and remember for the sake of both worlds to move on. Fate has chosen you for some unfair and awful reason to give you love and friendship twice, and then strip it away from you twice.
She was almost whispering the last sentence. I wanted to be selfish, I really did. At that moment, I wanted to tell that god pony to ram it up her snout and to leave me alone. I really did. I wanted to go to every single pony in the room and give them a beating they would never forget. I really did. But something was stopping me. Deep in my heart, I knew that I couldn't do any of the above. So this is the reason why I'm the element of loyalty, I thought to myself, forcing a shudder. I tried to put my defensive face back on, but I couldn't. Not anymore. I couldn't keep staring at the ponies in the room and tell them that their problems belonged to them and them alone. This was the reason why I let them take me last time.
I remember that now. That's why I left without a struggle. Because I knew in my heart it's what I was supposed to do, not what I wanted to do. No, I can't. I belong with him, I sputtered. I was on the verge of tears. Yes, you do, but you can't be. That is why this is so unfair. That man, he raised you from a young filly. He did more than raise you. He turned you into the mare you are today. He taught you to speak. He taught you to bathe. He taught you to fly. He taught you to love. She choked a little at that. She quickly regained her composure as best she could. That man, he not only shaped you into who you are today, he shaped you into who you will be for the rest of your life. I will openly admit that that man had a much bigger impact on you than any pony will ever have in your life. And now we must take that from you so that we, not you, can be happy, she said, losing her composure for real this time. A tear slowly fell down her cheek. So that we, not you, may live in peace. And saying this out loud does not make it any easier. But like you, fate has picked me. Fate has picked me to destroy beautiful memories of one of my subjects who were raised out of my sight and control. By any pony's standards, this is not fair, and I truly, so truly, wish that this could be different, but fate is cruel. I will not say it again, but you know what must come, she said, tears streaming down the side of her face. I couldn't respond. I couldn't look her in the eye, but I couldn't look away either. I sat there in a state of limbo and raw emotion. I was stuck like a rock. I opened my mouth to speak. I know. Will I remember him? Will I remember any of this? I asked between strange breaths. She shook her head slowly, tears flowing. I sat there, staring at the ground in front of me. Tears were sliding down my cheeks, following the wet paths of the ones before. I relinquished control of my magic, Princess Celestia. The princess withdrew her head and turned to her pupil, who was almost distraught as I was. She headed towards me, her horn glowing. I thought hard once more. I thought of the letter I wrote Dad and the times we had shared. I thought of my first sonic rain boom and the shattered windows that came with it. I thought of my first real NASCAR race and shouting for all of the drivers and seeing Dad looking up at me, smiling. I remembered the times we cried together, the times we...
Twilight's horn reached Rainbow Dash's head. There was a bright flash. Rainbow was lifted off the ground and was held by an unknown force. Twilight backed away slowly and looked up to her mentor, who signaled her pupil to be steady. Rainbow's body began to glow a vibrant cyan color, and her eyes turned pure white, rays of light leaking out of them. The cyan energy began to seep out of the Pegasus' body and disappeared as it left. Several of the ponies of the group began to back away slowly, scared of what might happen, but none was willing to leave their friend for long. Another flash projected from Rainbow Dash's body, temporarily blinding all who saw it. When they regained their vision, ahead of them lay a sleeping Rainbow Dash.
Let's get her to bed, for real this time,
the princess said quietly, tears still in her eyes. She was not proud of what she just did, and she doubted she would ever forgive herself for it. She had taken the life of a pony, not created one. But Equestria needed the elements, and the two worlds were never meant to cross. She did it for the good of both worlds. She too was alone. She had her students, but that was strictly business. She had Luna technically, but they were still distant after the Nightmare Moon incident. She had no one to love her for who she was, not what she was. She would never wish that upon some pony, and yet she did. She alone made that decision to end the life and the memories of one pony that was loved truly and deeply.
Fluttershy, I would hate to ask you again, but could you be so kind and stay with Rainbow Dash? I assure you this time that everything will work out quite all right,
the princess said, still mostly lost in her thoughts. Fluttershy swallowed deeply, but nodded. The princess let out a sigh.
Thank you, Fluttershy. This is all over, and I'm sorry to you all for putting you in that situation.
The friends looked among each other and then back to their leader. They bowed to her and her to them, and with a push of her mighty wings, set off towards her home. The door to Sugar Cube Corners swung open. Pinkie Pie and Rainbow Dash trotted in, laughing with each other.
Well, I guess I should run, Pinkie. All the others wanted to see me for some reason. Well, see you later.
Rainbow said to her pink friend.
Oh, okay. Later, Dashie.
Pinkie called to her, smiling. Rainbow shared the smile and trotted out. After Rainbow was out of earshot, Pinkie let out a small sigh.
She didn't even flinch when I said Dashie.
It has been 2 days. 2 damn days. Most of which was a blur to me. I've had enough alcohol to put myself into a coma twice now. What Celestia said. I don't know whether I should thank her or hate her. My mind was clouded by these conflicting emotions, and yet with all these thoughts I still had one ray of hope. Rainbow Dash was going to be happy again with her friends, and above all, she wouldn't remember me. She wouldn't have to deal with that pain of losing her father. I've already had to handle it once, and forcing her to go through it would have ruined me. As for losing her again, the very thought brought me to my knees, as it did so long ago. I thought it was going to be easier the second time through. I was so wrong. In fact, it hurt more, now armed with the knowledge that she would never remember me. But in a sad way, that is also what I needed to hear. It brought me closure, finally knowing what would happen to my little Dashie. I walked slowly through my house, touching things, just so I could feel something, anything other than pain. I walked up the stairs into my room and stood there for a moment, thinking, she'll be fine, and happy, and you know it, I kept telling myself. I wanted to prove that wrong in any way I could. I want to find a flaw in that reasoning so I could have an excuse to find a way back and be with her. I didn't even have to see her. Just knowing that she is somewhere out there with the memories of us was enough. I left my room and continued walking. I needed to stop wallowing in my sorrow. I walked back down the stairs and into the television room, and instantly my eyes darted to the feather resting on top of the TV. It was ghostly white. All the energy had gone from it. I approached it slowly and reached out my hand towards it. I had no idea if it would teleport me to her, if it would take me where I wanted to go. I didn't even care where it took me anymore. I just wanted it to take me away. I grasped it in my hand, clutching it close to my chest, expecting to be swallowed by darkness again. To my relief and disappointment, I wasn't. I opened my eyes. I hadn't gone anywhere. I sighed, not in anger or sadness. It was a sigh of defeat. So many times I've lost what I held dear to my heart. The pain hung there, slowly tearing me apart. I fell to my knees again as I remembered the days before I had met Dashie. Her first words, the times we had baked. Every moment was permanently etched in my mind. The thought that she would never remember me again creeped into my mind once more. I just wanted to end it all, just like I had so many years ago. No. Dashie would not want that to happen. I had to keep on going with my life. I had made a promise to my parents that I would live a happy life, one where I could look back at what I have done and smile at those moments. I put the feather back on the TV. I looked back upon the room. It was calm and lonely, just like normal. I sat down on the chair and stared at the powerless TV, thinking about nothing, trying to clear my thoughts. I woke with a start. The sun was seeping in through the windows. Shit, was I late for work again? I pulled my phone out. It was Sunday. Whew, best news I've had in a while. That last thought reminded me why it was the best news, however, and I quickly sunk back into my sadness. There was a glass of water sitting on the table, and I quickly drank it down. Today would be a new day. I had made a promise, not only to my parents, but to you, Dashie. I will live on with our memories. On the lampstand next to my table sat my mother's photo album, and inside rested all of my past, my sad, fruitless past, full of loss and death. But it also had my life's best moments. It held the previous 15 years of my life, the years that have made today possible. I have flipped through the pages of this book more times than any other, and yet this one still makes me smile the most. I opened to the first page. Family photos lined it as well as the next few. But there, several pages back, was the photos of my Dashie and all the memories we shared together. This was why I knew I had to let her go before, so she could keep having these memories with her true home. At first, I blamed those other ponies. They were jealous of what Dashie and I had together, I thought. but they were only looking out for the best interest of their friend. Celestia was right. Dashie couldn't live here, not on Earth. She needed Equestria to live. She could only survive here. I turned the page, and what I saw drew a tear from my eye. The letter Dashie wrote for me before she left the first time. I can still remember it without reading it.
Dad, for 15 years you took care of me. For 15 years you loved me, played with me, and made sure I enjoyed my life in a world not meant to house me. I'm not a mare of many words, but even though I told you this in person, I felt you needed a written version of it, so you will know it was all real. I love you, Daddy. You helped shape me into the mare I am now. I'm not sure what's going to happen, if I will remember any of this or not, but I want you to know that you did a darn good job of raising me, even if I was a bit stubborn at times and short with you during others. With Celestia's permission, I hope to allow you to keep our photos, our memories, with you so that you will never forget. Again, I love you and thank you. Your little daughter always. Your little Dashie forever. Rainbow Dash.
I looked down to read it again. Although I knew every word by heart, it comforted me to know that Dashie had written this for me. I scanned the paper slowly, going over every detail.
Dad, for 15 years you took care of me. For 15 years you loved me, played with me, and made sure I enjoyed my life in a world not meant to house me. I'm not a mare of many words, but even though I told you this in person, I felt you needed a written version of it, so you will know it was all real. I love you, Daddy. You helped shape me into the mare I am now. But now, I need you again.
Wait, that's not right. I got close to the paper to make sure I read it right. I did.
I am sorry to say that I had to change the original note I wrote for you those many days ago, but I needed some way to talk to you, and this was the last connection I have to home.
I couldn't believe my eyes. I rubbed them with the palms of my hand, trying to clear the thing that was making me read Dashie's note wrong. No matter how much rubbing I did, the words were still there.
I know you were here a second time. I felt a drain in my energy like the first time bringing you here. It is true that I am the element of loyalty, but how can I be that if I cannot be loyal to family as well as friends? So now I leave you with a choice. With this choice, I uphold my loyalty not only to my friends, but to you as well. Celestia has taken my powers from me, and I no longer control the ability to bring you back to my world. I have locked my memories of you away, deep inside my mind, somewhere that Celestia will not be able to get at, but it will not last. My memories will come back if I see you again. It is how the spell works. Until then, the memories that the purple one, Twilight, gives me will be mine. And that is your choice. Enter Equestria and be with me, the one you raised, or choose not to, and I will be the Rainbow Dash that was on the show. If you do come, I will be waiting by the lake near the forest. And, this is important, I won't be there forever. I gave myself the idea that for 3 days equestrian time, I should go to the lake and relax. From what I understand, that gives you a little more than a month to decide. This paper now controls the last of my ability. Once that month fades away, the energy will too, and when the energy fades, the portal will close, either behind you or in front of you. Whichever one it is up to you, and there's no turning back. It will close forever. Your little daughter always. Your little Dashie forever. Rainbow Dash.
I couldn't believe what I was seeing. She knew I was there again? Never mind that. She knew how to control her magic? Never mind that. She was giving me a choice? The last question wrenched my gut. I gently plucked the paper from the book and held it in my hands. I could feel the energy in my fingers. But how would I activate it? That is, how would I activate it if I wanted to? The paper housed the energy, but only she could activate it. Ugh! Just listen to me. How can I be so selfish? How could I endanger so many lives just for my own selfish purposes? But I realized that Dashie needed me. She left me this letter so that she would remember our memories again. I am going to do this for her. That's when it hit me. The feather. I stood up and almost sprinted the small distance to the feather. As I set the paper near the feather, a stream of energy began to flow between the two. The feather was now cyan blue once more, and it pulsated slowly. I stepped back, stunned with shock and confusion. But then, I hear Celestia's voice in my head. "Your world was not meant to house her. I'm sorry, but that's the way it must be." I stared at the feather for what seemed like eternity. I took one step towards it, my mind racing, and then I turned away.
All right, Twilight, but are you sure you don't want to come? It could be fun. Nothing wrong with the lake, is there?
Twilight shook her head.
No, there's nothing wrong with the lake, Rainbow Dash, but I'm really behind on my studies and I need to catch up.
She hoped Rainbow wouldn't ask why she was so far behind.
All right, if you say so, but you need to stop being so lazy, Twi. Those books are going to pile up if you don't stay on them. Okay, see ya.
Rainbow yelled as she floated away.
Whew.
Rainbow Dash spent a majority of the day at the beach, but nothing exciting really happened. In fact, she didn't even know why she wanted to be there in the first place. But she didn't mind. It was relaxing, and for some reason she had felt tired since she found Fluttershy in her kitchen making her breakfast.
That was a weird morning.
She thought to herself. The sun was beginning to set.
Time to go. Hey, Applejack, want to go to the beach today? I went there yesterday and it was really awesome. It was very relaxing, too.
Rainbow yelled into the Sweet Apple Acres barn. Applejack came out panting heavily.
Looks like you could use some relaxing yourself.
Howdy, Rainbow Dash. I would love to, but I'm really behind on apple bucking. I'll gladly catch you next time, though.
She was hoping the same thing Twilight was the day earlier.
Don't ask me why.
Well, it's your loss. I'm going with or without you, but you and Twilight really need to keep on you guys' work. I mean, look at the clouds. There's none to be found. All right, AJ, I'll see you later.
Rainbow said, getting a leaping start off the roof of the barn.
Whew!
Applejack breathed. Today went the same as yesterday for Rainbow. She swam a little, she flew a little, and she laid on the beach a little.
This is really nice. Too bad the clouds don't have lakes to swim in,
she said to herself with a grin. The sun began to set on the horizon. She took off and flew into the horizon, but for some reason a tear rolled down her cheek. She was sad, but she didn't know why.
Well, it was good talking to you, Rainbow Dash, and I would love to go to the beach with you, but I'm behind on an order for a very important client, and as you know, duty calls.
What is with all you ponies and being behind on your work? At least Fluttershy and Pinkie Pie had their work done, but it's your loss, I guess. I've gone to the beach both days for the past 2 days. Well, if you feel like it later, you can come down. I'll be there for most of the day.
Rainbow trotted out the front door and took off.
Whew, thanks Celestia, she didn't ask why.
When Rainbow Dash got to the beach this time, she didn't feel like doing anything. She just felt like watching. So that's what she did. She sat and she watched. Nothing interesting happened. She wanted to get up and fly around a bit to stretch her wings, but something kept her grounded. The sun was beginning to set for the third time. No surprise there, but why is it such a big deal, she thought. She got up slowly and approached the lake. She got to the waterfront and stared over the placid water, and began to cry, each tear making ripples in the water. She didn't know why she was crying, but she felt it was needed, so she let herself. She cried for what seemed like an hour, and by now the sun was at the horizon, ready to make way for the moon. She lifted herself off the ground and snapped open her wings, tears still streaming down her face. She flapped her wings, but something stopped her. She had heard the sound of hoofsteps towards the forest. She looked for what she heard, but didn't see anything. She turned back towards the water and looked at her reflection. Tears dripped down her face, hitting the water. The stinging tears made her blink and tried to wipe the tears from her eyes. She opened her eyes and saw a silhouette behind her in the water. Dashie?
Daddy?
The smell of a small fire pit filled the room with the pleasant scent of campfire. I was sitting in a chair that I had fashioned together after a long while of hard labor. Houses won't build themselves, you know. And they won't build themselves with only one person either, I might add. Or in this case, not with only one pony. I'm not implying that I'm a pony, of course. Now, that would be impossible. What I meant by that is my little Dashie was here to help. Her and her friend Pinkie Pie. When Rainbow Dash brought Pinkie Pie to visit me at first, I almost got angry. It was very much a secret that I was here, and I wanted to keep it that way, as much as I wanted to say something to that goddess horse. But after Pinkie promised that she would never tell, ever in a million bazillion years tell anyone about me, I was glad to have her over. We had the house built only in a couple days. Where it's not very large, it made up for it in spirit and love. It had a bedroom and a makeshift kitchen. At first, the kitchen was just a fire pit and a tub of water from the lake nearby. But Pinkie Pie and Dashie had managed to quietly move some furnishings from Ponyville to my home. A real bed, not some thin blanket and pillow. An actual bed like the ones back at home. They also brought me some cooking utensils, a small cupboard, and a type of cooler that I could store my food in. The cooler was almost filled to the brim with produce of all kinds. That is one thing I still very much need to get used to. No meat. I thought about trying my take at hunting, but I know it's in the forest. It's not that big of a deal to me, not having meat. I never had a problem with vegetables and fruits and things like that, but I still liked meat. Time to time, Rainbow Dash or Pinkie Pie would bring me eggs and or some baked goods or things like that. It was always nice to have them around. It was convenient too, because I was only a mile out of Ponyville, but I was still well hidden. I was nestled into a small clearing right on the edge of the forest, right on the other side of the lake where I found Dashie. I had just recently finished putting together another bed from a mattress Pinkie Pie dragged in one day. I had asked her where she got it. She told me that would ruin the surprise. Oh, that silly pink mare. The first time she saw me, she had wanted to throw me a welcome party, but I had to quickly stifle that idea. When she brought up the point about where I said, next time, I told her that once I was finished with my house, I would let her throw me a small housewarming party. I told her she could invite herself, Dashie, me, and Gummy. When I told her that, I don't think I have ever seen her more excited about something, ever. She also said the same thing, except the time where she first met me, but who could top that? What a silly mare. But I am grateful for her. She comes and visits me almost every day. She always comes with that ear-to-ear smile that brightens up the darkest days. Dashie, on the other hand, is here every day, and I am so glad for that. There are times now where I wish I was a Pegasus, just so I could fly with her. Now, where I can't fly with her in real life, I can sometimes in my dreams. There was a side effect to the teleport. We sometimes share dreams. Whenever she stays with me for the night, I feel myself flying low over the trees, struggling very hard to keep up with her. She takes it easy on me, but I still have issues keeping up with her. From my understanding of things, Dashie now has the memories of her past self and her current self. I had no idea how she was handling it, but I'm sure she was doing great. She was, after all, Rainbow Dash. She is pretty awesome. So, this is my life now. I wake up, I do some work on my house, I go foraging a bit, I shower with water from the lake, and then I wait for my two friends to come and see me. No, not my two friends. My friend and my daughter. I would never trade it for anything, no matter what. Pinkie Pie, Dashie, and I were sitting around the fire just relaxing. We had a big day tomorrow. It was my housewarming, welcoming party. Pinkie, in her standard relaxing mode, was spouting words faster than a gun, but I didn't mind. These two mares were the first people I had ever had over in my house since I moved out of my parents' old house. It felt good to finally have company. This was all I wanted and needed. A brony and his ponies. Just like good old times. The sun was beginning to set, and Pinkie Pie had just gotten up and left, assuring me that she would be over bright and early tomorrow. Dashie had stayed behind to help me mount something on the wall, my mother's painting, the only thing I had brought from home. We hung it just above the fireplace, a suiting spot. It was the centerpiece of the room now, and other than Dashie herself, was the most colorful thing in here.
It's beautiful, Dad.
She said to me, leaning her head on my thigh. I rested my hand on her mane and stroked it gently, staring at the picture. I agree, and I agree because it's you, I said quietly. She looked up at me for a moment with her big rose eyes looking into mine, wondering what I meant by that. She smiled when she understood, and I returned the smile back. Dashie, want to stay the night with me? I asked her. She smiled even bigger.
Thought you'd never ask. Race you to the beds.
She yelled and was gone in a flash.
I win.
Yes, Dashie, you win. You always do, I called back to her. I'll be right there. I just need to do one thing. I walk up to my mom's painting and I rest a hand on it. I did it, Mom. I'm finally happy, just like you wanted, I said quietly. A small tear slid down my face. I stood there for a moment, realizing what I had just said. I'm happy now, and I always will be, because of...
Dad! Are you coming or what?
Yes, Dashie, I'm coming, I shouted back. Because of her, I continued my thought out loud.
Huh? You say something, Pops?
No, Dashie, I smiled. I didn't. Here I come. I turned and ran for the doorway she was sitting in. Her face instantly had a grin on it, and her eyes were angled right at me. She bolted back into the room, me hot on her rainbow tail. Laughter could be heard through the small window in the bedroom as Dashie and her father played and wrestled deep into the night. When they had turned out the lights, they connected in their dreams again. They were flying over the lake just outside their home. Something had changed in her father. He was keeping up with her. She looked back and to her surprise found Pops right next to her. She opened her wings and pulled up into the sky. He followed her up, no more than a foot behind her. Together they looped and rolled in their dreams together, deep into Luna's brilliant night. The end.
For several minutes, I lose sight and sound of them. I slowly move back through the woods, making sure not to give up my position. Fuck. I turn my back to Zecora and I walk through her house, looking at...
You did it again!
Oh, hideous bat, the size of snot.
Sorry. Alright, okay. After sitting still for
Wow, he didn't even get
Wow.
No sentence.
We had just arrived to her hut, and we had spent the time walking. Why is this happening?
I shrieked. I broke into a sprint towards it, trying to catch it.
Okay, that was a bit much. Anyway.
I jumped into the air.
Yes. We should record some of this stuff, eh?
Oh!
Go ahead.
That's Rainbow Dashie. God. Alright.
See, I turned my back on you. I turned my back on Zecora and I walked through her house. It was in New York. I know where everything is in New York. There's a wonderful delicatessen around the corner. They sell the best bagels. It's very gluten-free. You know, my allergies. Well, I was looking at her trinkets and all the other things she had strewn all over the place. Oh, fuck.
Oh, God.
Okay.
Oh my god, I should do Pinkie Pie like that.
Like really high-pitched, really, really fast. Dr. Girl. I turned my back to Zecora. I walked through a house, looking at all the trinkets and other things she had strewn all over the place. The way this place was decorated, it felt like something out of a horror movie or something. Sweetie, could you stop that? I'm trying to read. Oh, God. Oh, Rainbow Dash just went to hell. I turned my back to Zecora. I walked through her house, she had the most beautiful little boy statue.
Okay, we're crossing genres here.
Okay, my cartoons, they're all messed up. What do I do? Give me a Kleenex. I'm starting to cry. I'm tearing up. Oh, the mucus, it's everywhere. Yes.
She pulled open the door to see Princess Celestia standing in the front step.
Bitch!
The princess said hurriedly,
Oh, I see. If we let her sleep, she can call us later.
Oh, fuck, she can call us, yes, on our fucking pony phone. Okay. Cartoony.
Bye-bye. Okay, there we go. Right? Right.
Wow, that is so weird. Kind of creepy. Is that creepy?
Oh, hi! I remember you. What? Oh, shit. Why would you do that? Oh, you terrible man.
Okay.
How about this one? It's called... How about this... Fuck. Twilight, you silly filly. You know that's not what the princess said. She said she wanted you... She said she wanted you to... to repeat this fucking line 5 million times. That's exactly the look Rarity gave me. I remembered how when we...
Fuck that pink shit.
That reminds me. I saw the strangest thing on the way over today.
That wasn't even a fucking sentence. That was like a blah. Okay. What they believe to have happened is that the mixing of the powerful natural energy of the weather and also your powerful magic had created a fuck. Natural energy of the weather and also your powerful magic had created a wormhole of some sorts that was made of jelly beans. Fuck, man. Basically, what I'm saying is that once again, only if this is true, then none of these worlds. Fuck. Basically, what I'm saying is that once again, if only this. What? I don't understand what Celestia's writing here. She didn't use spell check or something. I'm sorry, Twilight Sparkle. I'll try this again. Okay. Basically, what I'm saying is that once again, only if this is true, then none of these worlds. Fuck. Where I cannot explain why the first time Rainbow Dash came through here was. But what does that even fucking mean?
But she doesn't swear as much as...
But when My Little Ponies and I came through the portal, Twilight and I used our combined powers to do so gently, create a beginner's plug, so as not to rip open the portal, but to gently stretch it so that we could proceed through, much like Goatsy.
Alright, I'll redo that one. I had to. Oh, fuck. My Little Goatsy. Yeah, get it out of my system. My little goatsy, my little goatsy. Tra-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la. Alright, I'm over it now. Okay.
I'm also sorry to tell you that our original...
Oh, fuck.
I am also sorry to tell you that our original...
Why the fuck can I say original? Tra-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la. Fuck. You could have said copy on me. Alright.
I woke up with a start. The sun was seeping in through the windows, and apparently I'm getting a phone call. Okay.
I am sorry, but this is how it must be, for fear of these energies resurfacing later. But you must leave. GTFO. Go. Get the fuck out. Please. You must. Twice. Fate. Fuck!
This is so going in the bloopers, isn't it? You fucking suck. Well, whatever. Here goes. I have to burp like Spike. Because he's getting a message. You just messed up my burp.